These are the keys, and you'll get 90% there if you do these things. Turn up early, be well presented, and have some good questions to ask. I think you're 90% there in the hospitality business. If you don't truly enjoy taking care of people and you don't enjoy making people happy, if those things aren't natural to you, you should probably look somewhere else for a career.
Hello and welcome to this episode of OysterLink's podcast. My guest today is Paul Downie from one of the biggest restaurant establishments in the United States. Paul, the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, Edna. Thank you very much. My name is Paul Downie. I'm originally from Australia. I'm based in New York City, where I've been largely for the last 20 years or so. With some time in London and in Shanghai in between. I work for STARR Restaurants, which is a restaurant company based in Philadelphia. We are about to open restaurant number 40 in Washington, D.C. Most of our restaurants are in Philadelphia and then some in Miami, D.C. and New York City. I serve as the Director of Service and Hospitality for the group. And essentially my role is to ensure that everyone who works in our company understands the differences and the close similarities and the interdependence between service and hospitality, and how to do our jobs the best way we possibly can with the guest in mind.
Amazing, Paul. Thank you for that. So let's go back to your kind of like beginnings. What inspired you to join this industry? And how did your career path look like? What was your entry point and how did you progress in your career?
I joined the industry at the age of 17 to earn some pocket money while I was still in high school. And I gained a job as a dishwasher in a small cafe in my small hometown of Canberra in Australia. And moved to barista and then to server. And worked my way up to that point, and then decided to go to hospitality school in Canberra, and the rest is history, I suppose. It's been 30 years now.
Wow. So what is your secret to longevity in this field of work? Because that is the $1 million question, how to achieve a certain work-life balance that works for you.
You have to be careful. You have to take care of yourself. It does take a lot out of you. Everybody knows the hospitality industry is hard. It's hard physically and emotionally. You're usually working when everybody else is off. You miss weddings and you miss parties. And you're always out there trying to give people a nice time when all your friends are out having a great time themselves. But for longevity, you need to, I believe, make sure you're taking care of yourself, maintain balance, and get yourself some good rest and relaxation in between.
Okay, amazing. Sounds quite simple yet super difficult to achieve.
Sure, doesn't it? It sounds so easy.
It sounds, when you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I should have done this. But
Sure.
as someone who's been in the industry for 8 years, it's not really that easy. But okay,
Sure.
Amazing. So what do you say about abuse of certain substances that is kind of connected to this industry? Is it still an ongoing problem, or are people kind of trying to steer clear from those, since we have heard a lot of stories from our
I
peers?
think it is. I think it's still prevalent as it is in many high pressure industries. You know, the industries of finance, has a similar problem. I think when the work is long and it's intense, as I said before, you need to balance it out and give yourself some time to decompress. But that often means, when a hospitality shift ends, and it could end well after midnight, and everybody wants to go out and have a good time and have a few drinks, I think it can easily fall out of balance. Sure, as it can in other industries. There's a lot more awareness now, which is good, and there are groups emerging for the support of such. Look, I think if you're doing a hard job and you need to unwind after it, you just have to be careful to stay in balance and to take care of yourself.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Okay,
Hmm.
now let's kind of go to a important thing or important part. How important is hospitality school? How much did you learn that you didn't know before attending the school? And would you recommend to every candidate that's aspiring to build a hospitality career to actually first get the education?
Look, that's a great question, and I think it is important, but it's not more important than gaining practical experience. I think that people enter hospitality school with the hopes of becoming a hospitality executive, and it is important to learn finance and strategy. And there are some very good schools out there that can teach you that. The danger I see sometimes, and quite often, I have young people reaching out to me who are in hospitality school who want advice on the best way forward, and they don't always like it when I suggest to go and get practical experience. If you're studying hospitality at university or college, I recommend that you go and get a job as a dishwasher, as a busboy, as a host. Get some practical experience because you can't fake it. And the hospitality business is about leading people. And if you graduate from and get a great degree from a great school and instantly think that you are going to go and become a restaurant manager or a director and to lead without having gained the necessary experience on the ground with your sleeves rolled up, it's going to put you at a massive disadvantage. So please don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and to learn firsthand the jobs of the people you intend to be leading.
Amazing.
Mm,
That's one of the best advice that I have gotten so far in my interview. So thank you, Paul.
sure.
So what is a realistic timeline for a young professional who has some industry experience, as you mentioned, and has a degree in hospitality to get to their kind of like first management role? Because that is somehow the question we keep on getting from our audience as well.
Sure. Look, how long's a piece of string? It takes, there are so many factors involved, but what I always tell people is it's up to you. First you have to have a natural aptitude for it. You have to have a high level of emotional intelligence, and humility and empathy. Those are the keys to, and empathy more than anything else in the hospitality business. In a practical sense, in basic terms, when you're in a restaurant and you're serving guests, the key is to be able to look at your guests and imagine what they want next. If I was that person, what would I need? And if you're doing it really well, you're anticipating what they need before they even know it. And you'll bring something to a guest and they say, "Oh, that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't even know I wanted that." And then you're doing your job right. Um, so look, to be able to rise through the ranks in hospitality, those things are so important. You need to be humble. It also depends if you've got a good teacher, and if you end up in a situation where you've got a good mentor or someone guiding you through the process. But look, all bets are off if in the hospitality business, if you don't truly enjoy taking care of people and you don't enjoy making people happy, if those things aren't natural to you, you should probably look somewhere else for a career because it's extremely rewarding if you do really gain satisfaction from making people happy and from serving people. But it can be absolutely miserable if you don't have patience and you are not interested in that.
How can someone get hired at STARR Restaurants? What are some of the stellar CVs that you look at or events that
Sure.
you kind of like have your eye on?
Currently involved in one of our new openings in Washington, D.C. And so I interview several times a day. Um, these are the keys, and you'll get 90% there if you do these things. Turn up early, right? At least 15 minutes early. Be on time. Um, Present yourself well, be well groomed and well dressed, and have questions. You must have some questions to ask to show that you've thought about the role, you're serious about it. There's nothing worse than getting to a point in an interview when you say to someone, "Do you have any questions for me?" And they're like, "No, I don't think so. I think you've pretty much covered it." It shows you haven't thought about it. You're not taking it seriously, and you're not thinking things through. So I think that if you can do those things, turn up early, be well presented, and have some good questions to ask, I think you're 90% there.
Okay, that also sounds simple. So what would your recommendation be, would be some good questions from the candidate's perspective to ask?
Sure. Look, I think it's counterintuitive because quite often people don't like to talk about money, right? And sometimes if you are applying for a job with a varying rate of pay, don't be afraid to ask what the pay is and what the conditions are like, right? It's reasonable for you to ask how much what the range of pay is, or how much to state how much you are interested in making, and also what the hours are like and what the conditions are like.
Amazing. I love having these interviews as like real life examples and providing the job
Mhm.
seekers actually a real feel of the interview. So what is your favorite interview question as someone who is hiring? What
Oh,
is that one tricky one that people should be prepared for?
I like to ask questions like how do they get the shell and the color on the M&Ms all the way around without any markings? Or sometimes I'll ask, why is a manhole cover round? You know, and really, I mean, who knows the answer? I certainly, I don't even know the answers. But when I ask those questions, um, it's not because I want to know the answer, it's because I want to see the reaction. All right. And if someone can run with it and even make something up, right? But keep the conversation rolling, um, and keep it moving. That gives me confidence that that person is going to be comfortable dealing with guests and dealing with anything that might come up. So I ask silly questions like that sometimes, and it really, I suppose, I started out asking them because they're kind of an icebreaker. You know, it helps people to relax and helps people to see that as an organization, what you can expect from us as managers is for it to be somewhat lighthearted. All right. It's supposed to be fun. We're in the business of giving people a nice time and having fun. It can't all be completely serious, but it's also based on banter and an ability to communicate in a lighthearted way. So I get some wonderful answers to those sometimes, and I've had some fantastic answers that are completely untrue, but they were done with they were given with a glint in the eye and a smile, and some of those instances, you know, have become great long working relationships.
Amazing. I
Mm.
honestly don't know what would I do if I was asked that question. I would probably
Sure,
be, that's something I have never considered, but now I'm also curious. Let's
sure,
Google it.
sure. Yeah.
Because if we don't know, Google knows, probably.
Yeah, I was probably
Okay,
asking those questions.
amazing.
I was asking those questions before Google was around too, you know. So you're
Okay,
trapped.
amazing. So, yeah, exactly. So you don't have like, okay, let me get an encyclopedia to actually check. Okay, fine. Um, and when it comes to CVs, are there any guidelines you could share with the potential job seekers, especially those, I want to say, on entry level positions that don't really have a lot of experience to cover that paper?
Sure. Look, just be honest. It's okay if you're applying and you don't have a lot of experience. You have to start somewhere, right? Just be honest. And I guess if there's not a lot of prior experience you can list and demonstrate, then list what your hobbies are and what things you're interested in. You know, at least it's going to give you an opportunity to start a conversation and show your personality. If you don't have a lot of experience, but you've got a ton of personality, there's got to be a way to start talking about it. So accentuate whatever you've got, right? But if you do have a little bit of experience, um, we've started to see some extraordinary resumes come through these days, and unfortunately, not a lot of them are 100% accurate. So please remember that the hospitality business is very small, and there's a chance that we will know someone who works or did work at the place that you said you did. So if you were on your resume, you were a captain for 3 years at the best restaurant in town, it's going to take about 30 seconds with a text or a phone call to ascertain whether that's true. And unfortunately, lately we've caught a few people out, which we don't intend to do. But sometimes when the resume doesn't seem to match what's being said in the interview, and you send a little message out to someone you know, so just be truthful. Um, just be truthful. I think, and be honest. And it's okay. Not everybody who's interviewing you expects you to be a superstar, right? But what they want is someone who's honest and who is willing to learn and is willing to share things that they know. And you'd rather invite people to join your team that were like that than someone who maybe told a little bit of a fib and embellished their resume and got themselves into trouble. It doesn't end well because you have to prove it after that point, you know?
Yes, that's true.
Hmm.
But you are actually my second interview in 2 weeks that has said the same thing, that people are starting to kind of say things that are not true and that it's
Hmm.
easily checked. So, on that note, is it a complete deal breaker, or does the person still stand a chance if they kind of acknowledge what they said and that they made a mistake for doing so?
I don't know. Look, we interview so many people when we place an ad, certainly in our restaurant group, when we place an ad for servers or for a new project, we get so many applicants that if we get a situation like that, there's probably not a second chance, because we've got a stack of resumes that thick, waiting to go through. And if someone has, you know, told an outright lie about their experience, it's kind of hard to come back from that. I think it's just probably a good policy for everyone not to lie anyway, just be truthful.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to make sure, because people seem to think that they kind of can get away with it. Amazing.
Hmm.
So, what can we do as hospitality, businesses to attract Gen Z to actually come and work? Because I have heard from a lot of people that they simply don't want to work. What is it that we can offer to this new generation and generations to come that can kind of like draw them into this industry?
That is such a wonderful question, and it's something that we think about a lot. How do we attract the younger generation, and how do we deal with the fact that the younger generation changed? Certainly changed after the arrival of the smartphone, and then certainly after COVID, something shifted as well. And it's not. It's a very common story, in all industries. I think that the younger generation has different expectations about work, has a different estimation of their own worth a lot of the time. And look, we can't make blanket statements. There are certainly what we look for in hospitality are people who have that spark, right, and who have that show that they have that something, that X factor in them. Um, and I'm so overjoyed to say that we do find them, the people that love to serve and the people that seem to have a natural talent for reading the room and reading their guests. They still exist. They're just not as common as they used to be. So it's a hard question to answer, and it's one that we ask all the time. I don't know if we can. I think we can just be truthful, um, and make it clear that the restaurant business is not as glamorous as maybe it's made out to be on social media or other media. Um, and it is hard work, but it is rewarding. And I suppose it just makes it harder for us to find them, but they're out there, How to attract them, I don't know, because you've always been trying to attract a certain type of person, right? That has that love for service. And service not in a subservient sense, There's a certain someone said that there's a certain nobility in service, in helping people to have a nice time, and it's just something that's real and it still exists and people still have it, but just it's harder to find these days, I suppose. I don't know if that answered your
Great.
question.
It partially did, because it's one of those other $1 million questions.
Sure. I wish I had the
So,
answer.
do you think, all of us, don't we? Do you think that mentorship and actually providing people with like a clear career path can help draw the image for them? Because a lot of people accidentally stumble upon the hospitality industry and then discover that they're great in it, like I did.
It is a real shame, and I talk about this all the time. It's some people do stumble into hospitality, and it turns out to be the best thing that could ever have happened to them because they discover that they have a natural talent for it and an inclination towards it. Um, and some people stumble into hospitality and spend just long enough to feel like they can't start again. And that's when you get people who have been in the business for 10, 12, 15, maybe more years, and realize that they actually don't like people and they don't like serving people and they don't really remember why they got into it. Maybe the money was good, and they worked in a great restaurant and they decided that was going to be for them. And then they got caught up in the life, as you mentioned too, and in the distractions and the diversions of it. And it's difficult, but mentorship is incredibly important. And I don't think it's certainly in this country, there's not enough formal structure around mentorship. And I wish there was. To be able to help guide people through it, to help young people to stay on the right path because it is full of temptations and distractions, and there's a lot of adrenaline that happens in it too. Like people come off a heavy shift in a busy restaurant and they have to go out and decompress. They can't go straight to bed because their adrenaline is up and they're it's been it's pumping through their veins and they need time to decompress. And again, they have to be careful about how they do it. But I wish that mentorship was more formally organized, and there were more opportunities for people to be shown the right way through. Um, yeah, we should look into that.
Amazing. Thank you, Paul. So tell us a little bit more about your job. What does your day look like? What are some of the things that you're doing you maybe were not expecting to do? And
Mm-hmm.
is there any way that people can actually prepare for this career path? Like, was there something that you wish you did, but you didn't do that would make it easier for you now?
Um, okay, so the day-to-day of my job, our company is expanding quite rapidly at the moment. So um, my particular job, where it's chiefly concerned with service and hospitality, is to make sure we're starting our new restaurants in the right way with our staff in the right mindset and having been trained the right way, and to understand our philosophy and our ethos about how to treat people, which everything trickles down from there, right? So we're opening so many restaurants at the moment that my job is involved a lot with those new openings. But it's also concerned with ensuring that we are maintaining the standards at the other restaurants. So there's only one of me. There's 40 restaurants um, across 4 states, and I think that there will be some expansion in it soon to help us cover the ground needed. But really, it's got a lot to do with training, um, and helping people to understand what their job is and how to do it very well, and why to do it very well. Trying to, for want of a better word, infect them with hospitality so that they understand that it feels good to get these things right. You know, and people. When I say people, I mean guests appreciate being served by people who obviously love what they're doing. That's where real value is added to hospitality. When you're being served by a server who loves what they're serving, that they're so enthusiastic and they make everything work and they're really working to make sure the experience is seamless and a lot of fun. So really, that's where my job really lives, and I like it.
And are there any unexpected challenges, let's say when opening a restaurant, a new place, with that something that people who are potentially thinking about opening a restaurant might not
Sure,
even be thinking about now?
sure, always. Always unexpected things. Expect the unexpected. Expect disaster. Don't open a restaurant and don't think that you're not going to have a flood or a floor falling in, or we deal with people too. So we expect a lot from the people that work for us, and the best people in hospitality are emotional people. So you have to take the good with the bad with that because people have you know. The best people that work in hospitality are empathetic, and they're open, and they're emotionally aware. Um, and so you have the other side of the coin is that some people can be emotional in not such a great way, but you know, you invite people into your hospitality company and you invite them in and you treat them like family, you know, and so you have to take all the good with all the not so good. But I guess to answer your question, yes, we plan and we plan and we plan when we open a new restaurant, and we try to draw on our past experience and write the game plan. And then as soon as it opens, the place is full of people, you essentially throw out the plan or the rule book, because that X factor throws things at you that you can never really anticipate, you know? And that's sounds awful, but it's actually, if you expect that, then it's easier to deal with, and it becomes like a game.
So, is there one thing you wish you knew before you joined this industry, or one piece
Hmm.
of advice you could give to a younger self?
I wish I knew how they got the color all the way around the M&Ms, because maybe one day someone would ask me. But a piece of advice: expect this industry to be hard, but anything that's worthwhile is hard, right? So don't be afraid of it being hard. But if you don't love surprising people with delightful experiences, don't join the hospitality industry, you know? Otherwise, well, that's not true to say. I think that you'll be very good at the service aspect if you love taking care of people. There are certainly jobs within hospitality that are not directly guest facing, right? We have some extraordinarily talented people that work in finance, and logistics and strategy within our company, whose specialty is not um, facing guests and dealing with guests. They're just not naturally as outgoing as the people who deal with our guests, but they have a similar viewpoint and the same sense of service and a desire to please people. Maybe they're just not good at the direct delivery of it, but if they understand it, they understand how they can be a support to it. So look, if to answer your question, if you're looking to join the front lines of a hospitality company and to serve people, just expect that it's and understand that it's not about you, it's always about the guests. And sometimes guests are having a really, really bad day, and they might come in, and you know, that might come out towards you. Um, and very rarely is it personal. When it feels personal, there's ways that your manager should deal with that. But the people that succeed in this business identify that as a challenge and think, how can I help that person? Right? Instead of taking it personally and then, dishing attitude back. Some of the greatest triumphs and the greatest satisfaction come from when someone is just having not a very good day, and you can turn them around, and at the end of the experience, they say, thank you so much. I'm sorry. It was a tough beginning, but I had a really rough day, but you made me feel, you know, like I was where I needed to be. It's immensely satisfying, you know?
Amazing. That's the feeling that cannot, I think, compare with anything else in this world.
Yeah, I
Turning
agree with you.
someone's grumpy face into a very, very happy face. Amazing, Paul. Thank you so
Hmm.
much. We
My pleasure.
appreciate your advice, and we hope that our audience is going to learn a lot from you.
Thank you, Anana. It's been a pleasure.